Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to the channel. It's Cynicalex, live from the hotel room in Seoul to give you guys the patch breakdown for one of the most complex patch notes we've ever seen in Marvel Future Fight. Now, obviously, this is a different setup than we're used to, on top of the changes to lighting and stuff like that, and maybe a different sounding mic because of the audio and all that stuff. I'm having technical difficulties with my recording equipment for capturing the phone that I play MFF on. So I may not be able to put out content right away on the new update once it's live. I'm going to try to get everything fixed by then, but of course, when I tested everything in Toronto, it was fine. And then as soon as I flew over here, it decided to crap out on me. So my luck could not be better in that regard. But anywho, there's a lot to get into, so let's get into it. Let's dive right in. New Tier 4 system, etc., etc. So we got brand new uniforms for Iron Man, Black Widow, Robbie Reyes, and Blade. Blade was the big shocker, teased by Danny Koo over on Twitter, and iBigD was the one that cracked the code. All four of these uniforms look really good. I'm actually not going to spend any time or very little time talking about them just because we've sort of come to know by now that uniforms can look really good on paper, but it doesn't mean they're going to be good on the one hand. And on the second hand, none of them jump out as being bad. Right? So that's the one thing. Like, they all have healing, they all have really good effects. They seem to have improved for, everything that they need to improve and add for Iron Man, for Black Widow, and then of course for Robbie Reyes and Blade. These should be humongous transformations, especially for Blade because he is also getting a tier 3 skill, which is fantastic. I love the animation. It looks really cool. So this is something I'm very, very excited about. One thing to note for Blade specifically, his passive says when a bleed skill is used, so you need to be careful. That's not when he applies bleed to the enemy. That's when the bleed skill itself is used. So that's really good because it means it's going to apply in the same way that Electro's artifact applies. So yeah, really excited for all four uniforms. None of them seem bad at all. If I had to guess, it seems like Black Widow's is going to be more PvP oriented just because of the iframe ignore and the incapacitation, but really they all seem good in one way or another. So yeah, I'm not too worried about that. And basically with the uniforms, you have to wait and see through testing. So, I don't think we should worry too much about it here. We are also getting Awakening for Robbie Reyes, but then also for Small, Nova, and Wasp, Nadia Van Dyne. This is their sort of combo skill that they do. Now, I believe they've been in some Avengers team-ups together or something like that. So that's probably where this Young Avengers or something like that team-up comes into play. I'm not 100% sure. But yeah, it's kind of a bummer for Nadia and Nova to not be getting anything like Vulture and Sandman and Elsa and a few other characters. But hopefully they will be getting uniforms in the future, and that's what that means. But it's good for Robbie Reyes because he's going to be a lot stronger now with the new uniform. And then we have Iron Man's Tier 4 skill. So we find out what Tier 4 is, and Tier 4 is basically a combination of a stat bump that we get from Tier 3 to Tier 4, in addition to a new skill. And the new skill you can see there is just above the 5th skill, just to the left of the 2nd skill, so it makes that skill wheel even crazier than before. I think they should just get rid of the auto attack button, but we need that for Ultron World Boss Legend. And basically, as you use skills 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, you will charge up the Tier 3 skill, and you will charge up the Tier 4 skill, which happens to be a striker skill. It's a bit confusing because it's an actual skill, but then you attach a striker to it, and the striker will amplify the effect, but the striker skill itself is still just a skill for the character. So regardless of which character is the striker, in this case the example they use is Captain America striking for Iron Man, it doesn't change Iron Man's ability. It may make it stronger depending on certain synergies that Iron Man and Captain America have together, but Iron Man's Tier 4 skill, or his 7th skill, or whatever we want to call it, is going to have the following effect, where it creates a shield when he attacks, and then the shield can regenerate up to 75% of his max HP, and then he increases his attack by 1% for every 1% of the super hit shield. I'll be really honest with you guys, I don't really know what a lot of those things are. Seeing that flat number, 2,500, is weird. I don't know what super hit shield means either. I know 1% attack seems pretty good because it stacks up to 70% for 10 seconds, but honestly, I can't tell you much about this Tier 4 skill. It seems very foreign to me. But yeah, The understanding is that, from what I understand, it's going to be it's an extra skill, but you have to equip a character as a striker in order to be able to use that skill. I know, it's really complicated. So how do you get to tier 4? Well, according to the patch notes, you get to tier 4 by already being tier 3 or transcended. Once you're tier 3 or transcended, and of course, only for characters who have been given the ability to go to tier 4. Right now, Iron Man is the only character in the game, so don't sweat it that, like, you know, there's like, I think 150 or 160 tier 3 and transcended characters. You know, 99% of them cannot go to tier 4. Only Iron Man can go to tier 4. But that's going to be the first prerequisite, right? You can see there that first line, reach tier 3 or potential transcendence. So you're not going to be able to take tier 2 characters directly to tier 4, but then you're going to have to do potential level 12, level 80, character gear 30, and then all skills 1 to 5 are going to need to be level 10. So it's pretty complicated, but basically the way to understand it is that you're basically going to have to do the tier 2 to tier 3 transition again. It's simultaneously good and bad. Like, we're going to have to get used to it, but basically what they want you to do is they want you to clear, they basically want to create a roadmap, from what I understand, where, you know, tier 2 characters you use for World Boss, tier 3 characters you use for World Boss Ultimate, and then when you want to go to World Boss Legend, that's when you're going to work those tier 3 characters up to tier 4. So you're actually going to have to use characters in World Boss Legend as either the main damage dealer or as a striker. They have to be an ally, not a striker, tier 4 striker, like a striker like the 5 strikers in World Boss that we're used to. And then you can sort of unlock the character's tier 4 potential. So remember how you had to, you know, unlock Iron Man's potential when you wanted to get him from 60 to 70. Well, we're going to repeat that process all over again from 70 to 80. So, but you have to play them in World Boss now. You can't play them in World Boss Ultimate to unlock that. But again, this is only for Iron Man right now. So when I say them, it's a bit confusing, but this will just still matter for all other characters. And then you basically just have to do the same thing again, except this time it's going to be more expensive. So rather than using Black Antimatter and Chaos Nornstones and CCF to go from 60 to 70, you're using Essence of Dimension, Titan Component Packs, and this new drop called Life Seed to go from 70 to 80. So it's the same structure that we're used to. They're just filling it in with different resources. Now, I know people are going to panic immediately and wonder, you know, how are we going to get these? They are increasing the drop rate of both of these materials, these tier 3 materials, for all World Boss Legends, and it's going to scale, you know, from Null up to Ultron, because Ultron's the hardest. Now, to get the character from 70 to 80, you're also going to have to increase their level by sacrificing biometrics, which is what we already do from 60 to 70. However, with this one, they added this little quirk where if you use matching biometrics for the character in question, so let's say here, instead of using Captain America or Whiplash or whatever, random bios, you can use them and you'll get just under 100,000 XP per bio. But if you use Iron Man's, you're going to get a bump, or you're going to get a bonus. It looks to be about 20% more, maybe 25% more XP. So that can definitely matter for characters that you can farm the bios for effectively. Obviously, this is not going to be an option for premium characters, and then it's 100% not an option for native tier 2, native tier 3 who don't get extra bios that way, right? So it's an interesting little thing there to make bios more valuable again. So I actually do like this idea. And then again, there's no penalty if you don't have the bios of the bonus character. You're just getting a little bit less XP. And then you're gonna have to level the gears from 25 to 30. And instead of using, you know, Essence of Dimension and Titan Component Packs, you have to use CCF and then these 2 new materials. Well, this is the 3rd new material, but that was Life Seed that you use for the potential. And then this is, what is this? Carbonadium, and this is Soul of the Faltine. So we're going to talk about where you get those drops from a little bit later, but it's basically the same process that we did for getting from tier 2 to tier 3 with tier 3 materials. Now we're going from tier 3 to tier 4, again, only for Iron Man at this point. And then you have to level up the skills to level 10, and it seems like you also need Life Seed to level them up to 10, and you also need more gold. Also, keep in mind that leveling up the skill to 10 will, or should increase how much damage it does. Not by a ton, but a little bit. So that also helps. That's pretty nice. And then once you've done all that, once you've gotten the character to level 80 with potential and then bios and then getting their gear to 30, then you have to do the tier 4 upgrade. And the tier 4 upgrade is going to require, more Faltine, more Soul of the Faltine, more Carbonadium, more life seeds, and then it's going to require 10 books of Vishanti. Now, right now, we only have the blue books of Vishanti for Iron Man because he's Blast, but we will end up having 4 of these books. So they're literally just duplicating, they're copying and pasting, duplicating the tier 3 advancement template, but they're just adding in new materials in addition to the tier 3 materials. So just like they did from tier 2 to tier 3, where they duplicated some of the tier 2, because the gear level used to be 20, and then when they introduced tier 3, they made the gear level 25. But instead of using black antimatter, you had to use tier 3 materials, right? So it's the same process, just with new materials. It'll be interesting to see how good the stat bump is. It seems okay from this page, but it's hard to tell for Iron Man specifically. And then it'll really just depend on how quickly we can farm these resources. Now, keep in mind that you do need 1,500 Soul of the Faltine. That's going to be an important number later on because we will find out how many Faltine souls you can farm. And then you see there, when you're tier 4, you unlock the Striker skill. Keep in mind the tier 3 skill or the Transcended skill is not leveled up, so you don't have to level that skill up. It's just the skills 1 to 5. And then here you go. You can equip any character in the game to your Striker, and they will come in when you're playing as Iron Man. So you have this really cool, this is what I really like about the system, and this is what I think is really interesting, is you have the ability to customize it yourself. And so there are some advantages to using specific characters, and you can see here it says that the Striker, it's a little bit confusing, but basically, here we go. The 2 additional levels will be applied when the instinct of the equipped hero matches the instinct of the tier 4 hero. So there is a little bit of matching, but keep in mind that there are still only 4 instincts, and there's never going to be more. So still 25% of the characters in the game roughly have the same instinct as Iron Man. So you're not limited to a small pool of heroes, but keep in mind that the skill level will be based on the upgrade level of the equipped hero. So naturally, it makes sense if you take a tier 1 1-star character, level 1, and you equip them as the Striker for Iron Man, they're not going to be as powerful as a Striker, do as much damage, etc., have as strong of an effect as a tier 3 maxed out character will. So it sort of encourages you to continue building your roster out, and it allows you to get some additional benefit from that. So I like this system. I think it's pretty cool. And again, I like the fact that you only equip 1 Striker, but it's not a set Striker. So yours might be Captain America, mine might be Cable, somebody else's might be White Fox, so on and so forth. I'm just trying to think of other heroes that have the same instinct, but I'm not even sure if those heroes have the same instinct as Iron Man. I can't even remember. Justice. Okay, cool. So yeah, and then there you go. This is what it looks like in gameplay. You have that 7th skill there. Keep in mind that the tier 3 skill does not charge when you press the Striker skill, the tier 4 skill, and the tier 4 skill does not charge when you press the tier 3 skill. So a little confusing there, but basically both of those skills, 6 and 7, are only charged up when you use 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5, or when time passes. But they are not they don't synergize, or they don't charge up based on each other. So that's actually an important note, because you wouldn't want to have to worry about optimizing them by pressing one after another in a specific order. You may end up wanting to do that for specific tier 4 characters in the future, depending on their effect. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm just talking about I should wait for my 7th skill to be charged up because it'll charge up my 6th skill a bunch. They just sort of did away with that. There's already enough complexity when you play this game. I don't think there needs to be more, so I'm glad that they didn't do that. Then we have a new giant boss. We have a pretty big revamp, and we have a new giant boss raid. So this is really exciting. Brand new content. Love this. I know my voice doesn't sound this way because I'm really irritated about the technical issues with my elgato stuff, my game capture, but I'm really excited about this. It looks really gorgeous as well, and they've basically segmented it into 3 difficulties, Master Mold being the easiest and Dormammu being the hardest. They've also seemed to sync up the typings, so I think that's really cool. I don't know if that means that Dormammu is going to be a speed type, or if speed types will just have the advantage generically on this day. So that's really cool. And the new giant boss raid, Dormammu, the hardest one, is where you're going to get these materials. However, remember I said, remember that you need to farm 1,500 Soul of the Faltine in order to tier 4 a character. That means that it only takes 10 days of farming GBR in order to tier 4 Iron Man. That's really fast, considering they're probably only going to drop 1 tier 4 per month, maybe less. You can basically stock up and get 3 characters worth per month. You also have all of the old drops available in GBR, except for the card crafting cubes. And we'll talk about that a little bit later because it's a little bit annoying, but also important where they've gone and put them. They've reshuffled the the location of some things that you farm, which is very important because it's good. Like, it's good that they're balancing it out, but it's going to irritate some people for sure. But yeah, the other good thing is if you never unlocked Dormammu and you didn't pay the crystals for it, you can now unlock Dormammu for free because Dormammu bios will drop from this GBR. There's a bit more information about this GBR, but what you just need to know for now is you should play it 100%. Even if you have no intention of tier 4ing Iron Man. Tier 4ing sounds so weird, but yeah, even if you have no intention of taking Iron Man to tier 4, you still want to farm this because you can see here you will get 1 book every single day, 1 blue, 1 blast book of Vishanti, and you will be able to farm 150 of these. They're not going to drop 150 in one run, but hopefully it's not more than like 5 or 6 runs per day. And then there's a bit of a change for the number of boost points that increases the rewards. Not really a big deal. The other thing you need to know is that you can now play GBR by yourself. This not only applies to Dormammu, this applies to Galactus and Master Mold. However, big however here, if more players are in your GBR, you will get more rewards. So you're still encouraged to play with other players, but if you don't have a good internet connection for that, server, whatever, lag, or if you just hate other people, you always have the option to play by yourself. But I genuinely really like this, so I'm really happy that the devs did this. I'm not 100% happy that they did this here. I think your rewards should be the same either way, but I can understand why they do want people to play together because it is a multiplayer game mode. Now, keep in mind that your rewards won't change whether you are first, second, or third in the damage for the giant boss raid, so don't feel pressured to carry your team, but I would say do play with other people if you can handle it, because you're just going to get more rewards. So yeah. And then, of course, these new materials will only drop in Dormammu. Just keep that in mind. They're not going to drop in Galactus or Master Mold. Galactus and Master Mold will just have the same old drops as before, except they're actually taking away the card crafting cubes. So there's very little incentive to play Master Mold and Galactus now, besides for the premium card tokens. You definitely still want to play for the premium card tokens, but yeah. Also, keep in mind that GBR will not reset after the update, so don't play GBR before the update. Also, keep in mind that if you use a character for Master Mold or Galactus, you will not be able to use them again. They're not different they're not separately holding your entire roster. It's all one shared roster daily, and it resets daily. So don't play Master Mold with your strong characters if you want to use them on Galactus or Dormammu. Also, keep in mind that these rewards are shared across all 3 giant boss raids daily, so it's not like you can farm 30 of these comic tokens per day, although that would be nice. It is not the case, so yeah. And then there's the breakdown here of the rewards, and then, yeah, the Dormammu bios that you can now get, which is excellent. I think they should refund players who bought Dormammu for crystals, because there was a window in time where Dormammu and Odin were free, and then there was a window in time since then where Dormammu was only available for crystals, and now he's free again. So it's kind of awkward. However, I guess it's pretty hard to unlock Dormammu for free if you really want to get him really quickly, because you have to use, by the way, I forgot to mention this before, but the requirement for playing the Dormammu raid is you can only use tier 3 and transcended characters. No tier 2s are allowed. Tier 2 characters are only allowed versus Master Mold and Galactus. So, yeah, no more Coulson and Nick Fury and stuff like that versus Dormammu. But, yeah, suspiciously missing from the Giant Boss Raid rewards list are the card crafting cubes. Where did the card crafting cubes go? They went to Dimension Rifts. Now, I'll save you the trouble by mentioning that the CTP reforging cores from World Boss Legend have also moved to Dimension Rifts. This would be a perfect time for the devs to rework Dimension Rifts so that other characters could be good at it besides Loki. However, if you do need a Dimension Rift video breakdown and guide, I have those available. Basically, just use Loki with Valkyrie and one other support, and you can easily auto farm stage 4 or stage 5, and then in some cases up to stage 6. And yes, the amount of card crafting cubes that you can farm will go up as the difficulty increases, as you go to a higher level, higher stage of Dimension Rifts from 1 to 6. So we'll have to keep an eye on how much this is. They don't tell us how much it is. They don't tell us what the cap is on it daily, but hopefully they've also taken the opportunity to increase the daily cap because 500 is just too small. But yeah. And then they're going to be making Galactus a little bit harder. The GBR is going to be a little bit harder. Also, what I think is really cool that they mentioned here is that the giant boss raid will be harder when there are more players in it. So the Dormammu GBR and stuff like that, if you're just playing it by yourself, you may not see the full range of attacks and skills that Dormammu does. But when you play with 2 other players, you will see the full range of abilities that he has, which I think is really cool. But yeah, keep in mind that nothing is resetting. They're very clear about this in the patch notes. Nothing is resetting, so don't play any of this content before the update if you want to get the rewards after the update. And then they're changing the rewards. They're increasing the rewards for all World Boss Legends. So they've segmented the World Boss Legends into 1, 2, and 3, clarifying that Null, in their opinion, is the easiest. Mephisto is the second easiest, or the second hardest. And then Infinity Ultron is the hardest World Boss Legend. So 1, 2, 3. So they're improving the rewards. They're improving the Essence of Dimension and Titan Component Pack drops for all of the Legend bosses. But then they're also increasing them more for Mephisto and then even more for Ultron. They're also going to add the Life Seed and Carbonadium drops to all 3 of the World Boss Legends. So this is basically your last chance. If you have been ignoring or dragging your feet to start playing World Boss Legend, you're really leaving way too many resources on the table. You got to get on this horse right now. But yeah, keep in mind, the World Boss runs will not reset, so do not play before the update if you want to get the new rewards, and I highly suggest that you get the new rewards. So they're not removing any other rewards from World Boss Legend besides the CTP Reforging cores. You can still get them if you use the shield support, but otherwise it's not going to be there. But they're basically just buffing all of the World Boss Legend important drops, the tier 3 drops, and then they're also adding in the Life Seed and Carbonadian drops to that there. So that's cool. They're also making the search for first potential improved. So again, because they've sort of stacked these ideas on top of each other, they've made it a little bit confusing, but basically going from 60 to 70 is the first potential, and then going from 70 to 80 is the second potential. So they've made the first potential faster. So you'll basically unlock that first potential faster and then be able to do the potential enhancement from 60 to 70 faster than before. So it'll, takes like 2 days of playing World Boss rather than 4 or whatever. We have these new artifacts for Iron Man, Black Widow, Blade, Robbie, Nadia, and Nova. Honestly, all of these seem good. None of them seem broken or busted or must have. None of them are healing, thankfully, but they're all good. They're all good. Probably maybe the worst one is Robbie Reyes because of the fire damage based on fire resist, but even that one is pretty good. It's much better than Luna Snow's version, don't worry. So yeah, I like all of these artifacts. I think they're all quite balanced. We have the new icons for the new Battle Pass, which looks pretty cool. They're also hiding the upcoming icon for the new event. They said collect the 2 new icons from the Future Pass and 1 more. Oh. No, I don't think they're hiding it. Never mind. They're not. It's just Blade. Okay. And then we have the new uniform collection. They also added the Doctor Strange 2 uniform collection. So, yeah. And then there's a bunch of improvements and changes. I just want to cover the important ones here. First off, they're adding the magic tag to Mordo, which I think is pretty nice because it'll allow you to use Wong and Mordo together because Wong will now buff Mordo with his passive. And then they are removing Arabic language support. As one of the in-game languages. Now, I got a bunch of messages about this from a bunch of different people. I didn't want to make a separate video about this just because there's really nothing that you or I can do. It does seem really shitty, I'm not going to lie, but we don't know what's going on internally for them to do this. I don't think it's something that they're doing. Like, there's obviously a reason for this, but I don't think it's it must be a good reason, basically, is what I'm trying to say. Like, the game wouldn't support a language for 7 years and then just suddenly remove it unless you know, something I don't know. Maybe they can't find a good translator. I'm not exactly sure what the like. I literally have no idea, so that's why I didn't think it was going to be very helpful to make a second video on it, because it would just literally be me speculating into the void for 10 minutes about something. Like, I know very little about language localization and that sort of thing. It's a lot more complicated than it seems. Because they probably have to translate from Korean, so they need to know Arabic and Korean really well. That's my guess, anyway, my best guess. But this is unfortunate for Arabic players, and hopefully the devs can, I don't know, re-support the language. Like, I don't even know how you go about this. Like, I'm not 100% sure. So yeah, but that is what it is. So yeah, that is the update. Those are the patch notes. There's a lot of stuff. I know there's a lot of testing. I know. Generally and genuinely, I am excited about this update, but I do think it will be a little bit daunting, and it will be a little bit confusing to wrap our heads around, especially with the sort of duplication of certain things like potential twice and that kind of thing. But yeah, don't panic. Just farm. Just make sure you farm GBR every day. Make sure you farm story mode and World Boss Legend, even stage 1, and then probably Dimension Rifts now for the comic cubes. The comic crafting cube. So we'll have to find out how much that drops. But yeah, hit me up in the comments down below. Let me know what you think. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. And hopefully I'll have a stream up for you guys when the update's live with fixed hardware. Take care.